Hi there, Presley here. Metal Gear Solid 2 was one of the most anticipated sequels of all time. The game had all the makings of a great sequel and it was a huge success. Thus, I have decided to make my own sequel and discuss how to improve every single boss battle in MGS2. Before we get stuck in, I'd just like to say if you've been enjoying my videos, please leave a like and subscribe to Prez1990, you would really help support the channel. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. The first thing to note about Metal Gear Solid 2 compared to Metal Gear Solid 1 is the lack of conventional boss fights. The game had a total of 6 real boss battles and only 5 of which were in the main game. In this video, I will also be discussing boss fights we can add to MGS2. Another notable thing about Metal Gear Solid 2 is that there weren't any gunfights with bosses. I will elaborate on that a little later. Some boss battles will be tweaked to make up for the lack of gunfights. Finally, as with my video on how to improve every Metal Gear Solid 1 boss battle, I will be adding rewards for defeating each boss. The first boss battle in Metal Gear Solid 2 is in the tanker section, and that is Snake versus Olga Gurlukovich. This is a very small scale boss battle and kind of reminiscent of the Ocelot boss battle of Metal Gear Solid 1. This is a very simple boss fight that introduces the player to the gun combat. And this is pretty much the only gunfight boss battle in the game. The only way I feel this boss battle can be improved is if a cover and fire system was added for the player. Olga uses various objects for cover. She also uses a variety of improvised cover systems. These include that green plastic cover thing and the light to blind the player. Even though Snake has some boxes to use for cover, there is no way for the player to jump out from cover, get a few shots off and quickly back into cover. So the only way I could think to improve this boss battle is if there was an elaborate cover and fire system, similar to that of the Uncharted games. As a reward for defeating Olga, you of course pick up her USP pistol. So this weapon will be the reward for defeating Olga. In terms of conventional boss battles, that is it for the tanker section of the game. Various sources consider the Gurlukovich soldiers a boss battle, however, this is just a set piece. This is very similar to Metal Gear Solid 1 when you're climbing the tower and you're in alert mode, or when you have to fight the stealth camo soldiers in the elevator, or the elevator leading to Vulcan Raver's boss fight. So for this video, I will not be considering the Gurlukovich soldiers a boss battle. That being said, I think Snake's tanker mission should have a final boss battle. I have considered 2 options for this. One option would be if Snake has a battle with Liquid Ocelot. This would make a lot of sense as Liquid Ocelot is the main villain of the entire series. Snake and Ocelot of course have a boss fight in every other Metal Gear Solid game. It would be very fitting for them to also have a boss fight in Metal Gear Solid 2. However, another option could be Snake takes on Metal Gear Ray before Ocelot escapes with it. This is obviously the less likely option as Snake at that time is only equipped with a pistol and a tranquilizer gun. If Snake were to take on Metal Gear Ray at this point in the game, it would likely be an escape boss battle or a survive the clock type of boss battle. And of course this is the end of the mission, so there would be no need for a reward. The first boss battle in the plant mission is against Fortune. Now as I mentioned earlier, this is hardly a conventional boss battle. For starters, there's no way to win or even damage your opponent. Due to the fact that this isn't exactly a boss battle, it's very hard to think of ways to improve it. For example, the smaller room that the boss battle is set in was likely due to hardware limitations. However, I feel that the boss battle should take place in a small room to increase that claustrophobic effect. One way to make this boss battle even more intense is if you are hit with the railgun, it's a one-hit kill. This of course adds to the realism and the tension. The reward for surviving this boss battle should be some kind of light machine gun. As there weren't any light machine guns in Metal Gear Solid 2, this would make a great addition to the weapons. As Fortune is destroying the room with her railgun, she could destroy some kind of crate where the light machine gun falls out of. Raiden can then pick this up and take it along for the rest of the mission. The next boss battle in the plant mission is Fatman. Now Fatman is by far the least interesting member of Dead Cell. However, I believe he has a lot of potential to have an amazing boss battle against. Firstly, this boss battle is far too easy. Fatman himself barely poses a threat. He is merely a minor inconvenience as you're trying to defuse all the bombs. And the laughable pistol that he's given means he has very few offensive options. He can be made far more menacing if we gave him a weapon to be reckoned with. So we get rid of that pistol and we give him a grenade launcher. This obviously ties in to the fact that he is an explosives expert. Also, I think he should have secondary weapons, including grenades, C4s, and mines. The mines and C4s can be set as traps for the player, and the grenades could obviously be thrown at you once he finds you. Another offensive option that I would give him is that he can charge at you with the rollerblades, and him being an extremely large guy, he just runs you straight over. The final way to improve this boss battle would be to completely remove the element of defusing the bombs. This doesn't sound like a great way to improve the boss battle, but hear me out. There should only be one bomb on the battlefield, and that should be strapped to Fatman as a bomb vest. This would mean that on top of all the other threats that he imposes, the player would have to avoid shooting him dead in the chest. So the player would have to aim for the arms, legs, or the head. Needless to say, if a stray bullet lands on the bomb vest, it's game over. At first, this may sound incredibly hard, however, Fatman is quite a large target, so I feel that most players will not have any difficulty aiming for the legs and arms. After defeating Fatman, the player defuses the bomb that's on his vest, and they can pick up, as a reward, his grenade launcher. The next boss battle is the Harrier. This is mostly an excellent boss fight, and there are very few ways it can be improved. The only way this can really be improved is by improving the AI for the Harrier and the Kasatka, which is the helicopter that Snake is in. The way I would improve the AI is by making the Harrier equally interested in attacking the helicopter. Even though the helicopter has a life bar and can be damaged, it's very rarely in trouble. So I would add the whole extra element of you must defend the helicopter as well as attack the Harrier. Now this boss battle already has a reward, and that's the stinger that Snake gives you to fight the Harrier. So we'll just go with that. That's your reward, even though it's not really a reward because you get it before the fight. The next boss battle in Metal Gear Solid 2 is Vamp. Now generally, this boss battle is extremely frustrating for how poor it is, so I would completely scrap everything about this boss battle. Everything from the way Vamp seems more interested in dancing around than attacking the player, to the annoying and inexplicable shadow freezing, to the annoying pool of death in the middle of the room, I would start from scratch. Having seen what an epic boss fight Vamp and Raiden can have in Metal Gear Solid 4, this is the direction this fight needs to go in. This fight needs to be similar to the ninja fight in Metal Gear Solid 1, where it is predominantly hand-to-hand combat. Vamp should have the ability to dodge most of, but not all, of Raiden's bullets. And if the player tries to stay too far at a distance, Vamp should then use his throwing knives. This should encourage the player to engage in hand-to-hand combat. For this to work a little bit better, Raiden needs to start the game with a small knife, similar to Metal Gear Solid 3 or Metal Gear Solid 4. This also needs to take place in a much larger room with loads of obstacles, similar to the Snake vs Vamp boss fight in Metal Gear Solid 4. The main part of this boss battle will be closing the distance, getting in close enough to attack him with the knife. As a reward for defeating Vamp, the player should pick up some of Vamp's throwing knives. This would be good foreshadowing of Raiden's ninja transformation in Metal Gear Solid 4. These throwing knives would make a fun novelty weapon, and they would also be good for distance, silent stealth kills. Now the next boss battle in the game is Raiden versus the Metal Gear Rays. However, there is one boss battle I would add before this. If you ask any Metal Gear Solid fan what is the most badass moment in Metal Gear Solid 2, they will likely say it's when Snake stays back to fight Fortune to buy Raiden some time. The moment when Snake's firing the gun and it fades out and he knows he cannot shoot Fortune, this is just one of the most badass moments of all gaming. And I'm absolutely certain that most players would love to have played this moment. So at this point, I would allow the player to take control of Snake and fight Fortune. Much like the first Fortune boss battle, this will very much be a survive the clock type of boss fight. Once again, if Snake's hit with the railgun, it's an instant death and a time paradox. Also, the player wouldn't have to worry about supplies as Snake is wearing his infinite ammo bandana. The player will be able to momentarily stun Fortune by excessively firing at her. However, this will only buy the player some time. And to make it more interesting, the battlefield will be the whole area where the previous fight with Snake, Raiden and all the soldiers took place. Once again, no reward for completing this boss fight, as we all know Snake loses this fight. At this point, the player switches back to Raiden for the next boss fight against the Metal Gear Rays. This boss battle can be improved by having a much larger battlefield. The battlefield was quite small for this boss fight, and that was likely due to hardware limitations. So there should be a larger battlefield, and it should have up to 3 Metal Gear Rays on the battlefield at any given time. This is of course different to the original game where the Metal Gear Rays were standing off the battlefield firing at a distance. The Metal Gears should be on the battlefield actively chasing Raiden down. Being a larger battlefield, there will be more defensive options and more places to hide. Also, there should be more offensive options, as the player should be able to get the Metal Gears to attack each other with well-timed dodges and runs. Now you're probably thinking there wouldn't be a reward for this fight as the player loses all of their equipment before the next fight. As a reward for defeating the Metal Gear Rays, Raiden should pick up Solidus' P90. The final boss battle in Metal Gear Solid 2 is against Solidus Snake. Now remember at the beginning of this video when I said there weren't enough gunfights in the game? This is where I think the game should be different. The Solidus boss fight should be a 2-part fight. The first part of the fight should be a gunfight that takes place across the rooftops of New York City. This should play out as a cover, fire and chase gunfight sequence. The player should have Solidus' P90 and their sword, and Solidus he's firing back with maybe another P90 that he picked up from somewhere. That's all very vague, I know, but let's just go with it. This first part of the fight should go on until the player depletes Solidus' life bar. At this point there's a cutscene, Solidus is out of ammo, Raiden is out of ammo, and they draw swords. And this is where the final sword fight should take place. The only way this could be improved is if the sword controls were slightly tweaked. If a parry and counter system were added, it would make the battle far more diverse. And once again, the reward for completing this boss battle should traditionally be the Patriot. And there you have it. Those are ways the boss battles from Metal Gear Solid 2 can be improved. Let me know what you think in the comments section. How would you improve the boss battles from Metal Gear Solid 2? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to Prez1990 for weekly gaming videos. All that's left for me to say is take care, and I'll see you in the next video.